Another brazen smash and grab robbery caught on camera. This one out of the upscale New York car dealership. And actually, that was in Chicago, near the city's premier shopping district, where thieves made off with millions of dollars in merchandise, including jewelry. Voters are blaming Joe Biden for the spike in crime across the U.S. A new ABC Ipsos poll says only 36% of Americans approve of Biden's handling of crime. That's a shocking drop from 43% in just late October. To discuss more the turmoil at the White House over these numbers is Hogan Gidley, former White House Deputy Press Secretary and Director of Election Integrity at the America First Policy Institute. Hogan, welcome to the program. It's good to see you. Now, listen, you have spent hours and days and months and years in the White House with President Trump. If you have these dumpster poll numbers and you're in the White House, what advice do you give the president?
Well, you'd have to change policies because it's pretty clear that the policies you're putting in place are hurting American families. Look, in the Trump administration, people's lives were better, regardless of race, religion, color, or creed, because of the things Donald Trump was able to do. When you change all of those policies, you're going to get the opposite result. Of course, people are blaming Joe Biden for all of this because it's his policies that are resulting in these crime spikes all over the country. It was the Democrat Party who said nothing while billions of dollars of damage was done to our major cities in an entire year. In fact, it was Kamala Harris who asked for money, not for the business owners who lost their livelihoods, but for the criminals who caused all of the destruction in the form of bail to get them out of prison. The whole thing is on its head. And one more point I'd like to make. The way the media talks about this in a passive voice, as does Joe Biden, as if these things are happening to him and he has no control over it whatsoever. It's his policies that open the southern border. It's his policies that are keeping our goods parked offshore. It's his policies that got us out of Afghanistan in a way that left hundreds of Americans stranded there, not to mention those who helped us out. And it's his policies who are that is allowing all of this smash and grab, all of these spikes and murders all over America today. It's a Democrat-controlled cities, and it's their decision to turn a blind eye to it. That's the problem, and the American people know it.
They do know it. And so I want to get your take on this because Chuck Todd was defending Biden's low approval numbers. Take a listen, and I want you to react.
It seems as if there's nothing the White House can do to improve their political standing these days. It does feel like every week there's another poll. It's a new bottom. It's a new this. And some of it is out of their control. His two big promises were to get COVID behind us and to get rid of Donald Trump. COVID's not behind us and Donald Trump's still lurking. It's not his fault.
So Hogan, is this problem with Americans' view on Joe Biden the fact that it's COVID and Donald Trump, or is it the border? Is it crime? Is it inflation? Is it those things?
It's all of those things. Remember, COVID was the only actual policy that he was seeing some support among the American people for, but now he's upside down with that handling as well. Look, he absolutely lied to the American people when he said he could get it under control. Remember, he was going to shut down the virus, not shut down the country. That was a complete and total lie because you can't shut down a global pandemic and an airborne virus. But the media glommed onto that. Now, the problem with that messaging is, or I guess the problem for Republicans is, now he's going to say with every new variant, because the media chimed in and said, yes, we agree with Joe Biden that he can shut down the virus. It's everyone who doesn't follow exactly what he says. They're the ones to blame as to why COVID's still around. But even still in that clip you just played, you heard Chuck Todd. It's not his fault. These things are happening to him. He is responsible for his own actions. He is responsible for these policies. The American people know better because they're feeling the brunt of bad policy.
But Hogan, I find it interesting because Democrats are a party of government. They think government is the answer to everything. But then when there's problems in the economy, on the border, with crime, they kind of shrug their shoulders and go, there's nothing we can do. How do you explain that, right?
Well, they say it's the solution to everything, but yet when they control all the levers of power, the White House, the House, and the Senate, not to mention the fact Democrats control big tech, Hollywood, colleges and universities, everything that can actually, push people into a certain direction to believe something, all controlled by Democrats, all the levers of power that can change the policy, all controlled by Democrats, and they still blame other people for it. It's all about scapegoating. It's all about shifting blame. It's time for the media to stand up and say, no, You're the president. You have control of Congress. You ought to be getting these things through if you want them so badly. But again, it's that passive voice that sneaks back into Joe Biden's messaging that this is happening to him. He can't make any changes that would stop people from coming across the southern border, even though Donald Trump did it. He can't make any changes to put more money in your pocket and to bring gas prices down, even though Donald Trump was able to do it. And their solution to everything, as Mick Mulvaney said, is just more cowbell. Just keep doing all the bad things, doubling down on policies that hurt people.
You know, Hogan, maybe it was like what Ronald Reagan said, government is not the solution, government is the problem. Maybe this is a case for free enterprise again, right? I mean, let's get back to the private sector, get government out of our lives. But listen, Hogan Gidley, thank you for joining me, and thanks for all your great work when you were in the Trump White House.